Family, hey, this is Bishop Tony. Great to have you guys tuning in today. I pray that all is well with you. I want to encourage you to continue to pray. Please know that God's ear is inclined unto your cry. He does hear you indeed. Amen. Hey, we're in Luke chapter 9 today. And we're going to pick this up in verse 37. And again, I'm reading from the New King James Version for you guys that are just tuning in. Luke chapter 9, verse 37. It says here, "Now it happened on the next day." This is after Jesus had taken Peter, James, and John up on the mountain. He had transfigured in front of them. Peter, James, and John had a chance to see Moses and Elijah, and they heard the voice of the Lord saying, "This is speaking of Jesus. This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." And now they're coming back down. It says here in 37, "Now it happened on the next day when they had come down from the mountain that a great multitude met him. Suddenly, a man from the multitude cried out, saying, 'Teacher, I implore you, look at my son, for he is my only child. And behold, a spirit seizes him and suddenly cries out. It convulses him so that he foams at the mouth. And it departs from him with great difficulty, bruising him. So I implored your disciples to cast it out, but they could not.'" Now, what really makes this very, 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 very interesting, if we go back up to verse 1 of this chapter, it says, Then he called his 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all demons. They had the authority, but here they find a situation where they can't exercise that authority. They can't cast this demon out. They're struggling with that. So Jesus had taken his disciples up to the top of the mountain. They came back down and they got this situation. Here's this man, and this man has brought his son to these 9 disciples, the ones that did not go up on the mountain. And verse 40 says, "I implored your disciples to cast it out, but they could not." But Jesus had given them authority. Why couldn't they do it? Now, this is just my opinion. That's all it is my opinion. Okay, it's just my thoughts. Please, I'm qualifying that. Okay, it's just my thoughts. I try to put myself in the shoes of the 9 disciples, the 9 apostles, excuse me. As Jesus says, "Peter, James, John, come with me. Hey, the rest of the fellows, we'll be back in a couple of days. We're going up to the top of the mountain." And if I wasn't selected, what happens to you when you're not chosen? How do you manage that? How do you deal with that? Do you cry favoritism? Do you cry nepotism? Do you cry racism? Sexism? I don't know. Is that your default? Is that your default? And then you got to ask yourself, if you lay hold to one of those, okay, as a reason that you weren't selected, all of a sudden now their authority got diminished. Here's a man that needed help. I have 3 sons and I have a granddaughter. And my 3 daughter-in-laws, they're like my daughters. I'm telling you, I love them. 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 Have others that Jack and I call family that are dear to us, and we pray and we intercede for them. And when they're going through difficult things, you know, we're right there crying with them. Those people are so important to me. Now, here's the thing. If someone that's dear to me was troubled, and I came to the man of God at my local church or a church down the street, I said, "I need some help. I heard that some great things are taking place in this church. I've heard that I can get healing here. Or my son can get delivered here." And I approached the church. And because the senior pastor, the bishop of that church, went on a conference and took 3 of the other leaders, didn't take the others have this attitude. And you got to watch that. People need help, but because you feel rejected or not included, I don't know, whatever it is you might feel, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I don't know, but whatever some kind of emotions you're feeling, and all of a sudden these guys, the power is diminished. His power is diminished. The power is diminished. And they couldn't do it. And so people are suffering because we get an attitude, we get insecure, and all of a sudden we can't rise to the occasion. I learned something when I went through a 2-year school of ministry program. They used to say this all the time, that on the other side of your obedience are people. And I've learned to really think about people. My very first job was in McDonald's, and I was doing, you know, one thing about McDonald's, boy, they're big on this customer service. I know Chick-fil-A is the hot shot right now, but when I was a young man in the 70s, the one thing I was taught in McDonald's was keep the place clean, deliver a quality product, and give great customer service, QSC. I still remember that. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Now, if I got an attitude, and all of a sudden I get on the cash register, and I'm kind of gruff or short with the people that come in to have a great lunch experience, they're going to suffer. And this man was suffering right here because Jesus had given the apostles authority, and all of a sudden they couldn't do it. And I just wonder, again, it could be me, and once I get to heaven, I'll inquire and maybe get an answer to this. But they couldn't cast a demon out of this man's child. This man was grieving. And if you have children, your children are your world. Your children are everything to you, especially when they're little. I mean, they're just so dear to you. And here's this man, his child is just being run over by this demon. And the disciples couldn't do anything about it. Verse 41, when Jesus answered and said, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here." And as he was coming, the demon threw him down and convulsed him. Then Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the child, and gave him back to his father. That was amazing. Jesus did it. Verse 43, and they were all amazed at the majesty of God. But while everyone marveled at all these things which Jesus did, he said to his disciples, "Let these words sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men." Now, Jesus transitions right now to begin to talk about his crucifixion. And I think he's letting the disciples know, you know what? It's some serious stuff about to happen. And I'm going to need you guys to rise up and rise to the occasion. If this is stumbling with you guys right now, if you feel in some kind of way because I took the three up and didn't take you, I'm expecting more of you. One of the things I really try to practice here is just unity with the ministers here at my church. You know, they were all on one accord. And there are times when I'm going to favor others over one. You say, well, Pastor Tony, you shouldn't favor no man. But there are instances when I need to work with one of the younger ministers and I have to spend more time with him or her versus one of the older. So it's not like I'm favoring one over the others. Sometimes certain things are required. I don't know why that Jesus took Peter, James, and John up to the mountain. I'm not sure why, but that was a reason that he does everything. And so sometimes when it seems like others are getting ahead of me or going before me or getting favored and I'm not getting, I still celebrate them. I want to keep a pure conscience. You know, Paul said something in Acts 24:16, and please take special note of this. Acts 24:16, Paul said, "I purpose to guard my heart. I want to have a conscience void of offense toward God and man." It's quite possible the apostles could have had an attitude towards Jesus, and therefore all of a sudden now that authority is lost. I don't need something demonic coming up on me and my family because I'm out of sorts. I need to trust God and stay plugged in no matter what is going on around me. And some of you saying, well, Pastor Tony, I know in other Gospels, it said, Jesus said, this kind doesn't come out except by prayer and fasting. And that's true. That's so true. But here's the thing. Yeah, I believe if they had an attitude, and if you live a fasted life and stay prayed up, then when these opportunities come, and it was an opportunity, you'll be able to handle that. If you had stayed prayed up, you wouldn't have allowed offense into your heart, or you gotten jealous when you see someone else getting promoted. That's the importance of staying connected to God, so those things don't get in your heart, and you don't have those kind of situations arising. People need us. People need you. And many of you right now, you're listening because you're going through something and focus is on yourself. But I'm going to tell you something. Once you get healthy and whole, you're expected to get back in battle and fight for others. Jesus came and he died for other people. That is what this is all about. It's about other people. Go back to verse 42, please. And as he was still coming, the demon threw him down and convulsed him. Then Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the child, and gave him back to his father. In our communities across America, there are unclean spirits that need to be rebuked. There are children that need to be healed. And they need to be given back to their fathers. You know, in Malachi, one of the last things that was spoken about Elijah was going to come, which is really John the Baptist, and he was going to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the children's hearts back to the fathers. And that's a big issue with us just across America. Fatherlessness. We have homes without fathers. Homes without fathers. A father's rightful place is in the home. You know the paralytic man that had 4 of his friends brought him to Jesus and to start Jesus' ministry. And Jesus healed the paralytic and forgave him for his sins. And the man got up and Jesus said, pick up your bed and go home. Go home. And it's our job to help reconcile fathers and their children. If we have our own issues, we won't be able to do that. In Mark chapter 8, verse 22, there was a man that he was blind. He had gotten just spent out of sorts, just spending time over there in Bethesda. And then Jesus took him by his hand out of the village to heal him. And once the man had his sight recovered, Jesus had to touch him twice. Once the man regained his sight, Jesus said, now go home and don't go back in the village. Don't go back in the village. Don't go back in the village. So my brothers, sisters, everyone, I'm telling you, we need to get healed because there are people that need deliverance. Families need to be restored. And we need to be able to walk all the time in our God-given authority, that power and authority, all the time, 24/7. And the way to do that is to guard our hearts. Don't let anything in that's not of God. I'm trusting you that you will trust God. And we will all go and do that which we were created to do, to bring liberty to those that are oppressed. God bless you all. Have an amazing week.